Hello, friends. My name is Stanley Cooley, and today I would like to talk to you about dreams and grief. Now, we all have someone, and maybe it's even ourselves, maybe we've experienced it ourselves, people who have lost a loved one, and then within a short period of time start having dreams of that loved one. Dreams that can be very real, and it seems like that loved one is right there with them. Now, these dreams can be happy, they can be sad, they can be angry dreams, but still, they are dreams that involve our loved one. Now, also, there's something that we'll talk about later, but there is also something that goes on. It may not even be a dream where the person is right there with us, but there are little fragments or pieces of a puzzle that tell us a story about the relationship between the griever and the loved one who's passed away. Now, let's get into a little bit, though, why these things might occur, why dreams might occur. Now, when we're going through the grieving process, it has been said that grief creates a feeling that is much like fear. And so, what happens when we feel fear? We get into the fight or flight mode, and when we go into that mode, blood flow moves more blood to our extremities, to our arms and our legs, so we can either better fight or better run. And when this happens, less oxygen is going to the brain, and this could possibly affect our parasympathetic system, which can affect our sleep. And if our sleep is affected by this parasympathetic system and the lack of oxygen going to our brain, then this indeed could affect our dreams. Now, as I said earlier, dreams are not always positive, they can be negative. You can be happy in a dream, you can be laughing, having a good time during a dream, or you can be sad, upset, crying during a dream, or you can even be angry during a dream. But we want to point out that these things are all normal and that they always lead to a positive conclusion when worked through with the therapist. So let's take a couple of examples. Positive dream. Positive dreams. Dreams that just help us sense that our loved one's okay and that they are right there with us. They will never leave us in spirit. They will always be with us in our hearts and in our minds. And so that's a very happy, positive dream. I know that I have had dreams of my dad when he passed away, and it was like he was right there with me, and I'm smiling and I have a tear in my eye at the same time because I know that he is not any more with me, or is not going to be with me anymore, I should say. Let's talk about some negative dreams. Perhaps it was a child that passed away, and right before the child passed away, they had an argument. It could be any loved one that passed away. You had an argument with that person, and the argument did not get resolved before the person passed away. Now, when this happens, you can carry a lot of guilt and shame, or you can carry a lot of anger because that problem didn't get resolved. We call this unfinished business. When you have unfinished business with the person who passed away. And many times these dreams can bring that stuff forward. And when we dream about this unfinished business, it helps us to understand it better and work through the unfinished business better in our own mind. And as we go through this and present it to our therapist can help us work through that process of getting through the unfinished business that we had with that loved one. Perhaps it's a sad dream because we want that loved one to be with us always. And perhaps in those dreams, we're striving to keep the loved one with us. We can't stand to let them go. And so we dream about them, and in that dream, we're holding on, but there's nothing that we can do. They are gone. And so we need to bring these dreams to the therapist so that the therapist can help us work through that grief and that longing for the loved one to still be here, and that affecting our life and our ability to move forward in our life. So um, these are some examples of dreams that can be either happy or sad or angry. Now, there are things that we need to keep in mind as therapists. First of all, we need to keep in mind that the deceased does not need to appear in the dream. The deceased does not need to appear in the dream for it to be about the deceased. Okay, so perhaps there is that unfinished business with the deceased, and in the dream, there's aspects that are dealing with the same issue that there was unfinished business with that loved one. And so this is very important to remember. So if someone is talking to you about their dreams, and you as a therapist, you need to be able to put the pieces together and understand how this is really truly talking about their loved one. You know, and that doesn't mean it's not relative. The loved one does not have to be there for the dream to be relative to the grieving process. And we also, as therapists, we should not overlook dream fragments, fragmented dreams. So where we're only getting bits and pieces here and there, and it's not all put together. And we must work with the client to help them bring those pieces together to see a pattern and try to understand what that's about, what that pattern is telling us, and what we need to work through with the client in that grieving process. Now, we need to be sure to not diagnose the dream ourselves, or not um, come to the conclusion of what the dream means ourselves. We need to let the client come to that conclusion. What is this dream telling them? The reason for that, because the client knows the relationship they had with their lost loved one. We don't know that, but the client may know that very intimately, or should know that very intimately. And so then when they have these dreams, they will be able to convey to the therapist what that's about, and how it's about this unfinished business or this piece of their history together, and so forth. So it's very important that we let the client tell us what the meaning of the dream is. Now, there is also aspect where there can be a series of dreams. Now, this is similar to, in a way, in my mind anyway, similar to the fragmented dreams. A series of dreams where we have to piece the dreams together to come to the full scope of their meaning and what they're trying to say to us. So it's very important for us to remember that and be able to see the series of dreams and come to an underlying theme of what's going on in those dreams. A couple more things that we need to look at or see is that the client may have dreams around the anniversary of the death of their loved one. This is not unusual at all. It's very normal for the client to have dreams about their loved one around the anniversary of their death, and this may continue, for the next few anniversaries of that death. And we need to help the client to understand that this is normal, and that it doesn't necessarily mean anything negative or bad. So there's one more thing that we need to understand as therapists, that attachments aren't always the same. But dreams can give us clues as to the nature of the attachment that was between the client and the deceased loved one, or again, I want to even mention a pet. Because let's face it, our pets are very close to us. They are like family, as many people say. And so we don't want to just dismiss that it's just a pet, you know. A lot of people say it's just an animal, it's just a dog, get over it. And no, they're very real. It's a very real grieving process, and it is very important to our mental and emotional well-being that we work through that grieving process, even when it's a pet. And all of these things can still apply to that grieving process, even though it's just a pet, or as we say, just a pet. That pet is like a family member, and we need to treat our clients with the same respect that we would treat them when it is a family member, when it is a loved one, a human being, because in their heart, it's still hurt, it's still pain, and we need to help them work through that to get to their to end of their grieving process. I hope that this has been helpful. I hope everyone has a fabulous evening. Till next time.